So welcome, Tim. Thank you for joining us. I've been telling people for years to read the 4-Hour Work Week so they could actually get more sleep because they can do less work. But now your book is talking all about everything from sleep to weight loss. So tell us about the 4-Hour Body.
So the 4-Hour Body has been a 3-year project. Most people think I'm obsessed with time management and working with startups like StumbleUpon and Evernote. Whereas in reality, the obsession is physical tracking, and I've done that since age 18. So the 4-Hour Work Week brought me access to the best scientists, doctors, athletes, black markets, chemists in the world. So it's a choose-your-own-adventure guide to reaching your genetic potential in anywhere from 8 weeks to 6 months in every area you can imagine. So whether that's sexual performance, ultra-endurance, fat loss, muscular gains, it's got everything. About 50 topics, really short chapters. And that's the 4-Hour Body. It's the most important thing I've ever written easily. So I'm excited to see what it does.
And it's got a lot of stuff in there that is pretty crazy from a sort of traditional perspective. So what's coming from doctors? What do you expect in terms of, is there controversy around this, or is it, are people sort of listening?
There will be a lot of controversy. There'll be a lot of discussion. Fortunately, I have a lot of very good scientists, NASA scientists, PhDs, dozens of PhDs and MDs. And we're not talking about from mail order programs. We're talking about Harvard and many other places. These are very, very, very good, qualified doctors and scientists. But the fact of the matter is, when you actually test assumptions and prove that many things don't work, people are going to get pissed off, and a lot of people are going to get hit in the wallet. I don't attack anybody individually, but if someone's promoting something like a blood type diet or something that makes no sense when you dig into the science, I'm sorry, but I'm going to discuss that very objectively, and there will be a lot of controversy, absolutely. There are also going to be people who don't read the book and say, well, Tim's not a doctor, Tim's not a PhD, what the hell does he know, how is he qualified? And what they're missing is I'm the explorer and the human guinea pig and the investigator, much like a Malcolm Gladwell, but I'm going out and I have access to the best people, and I also have access to a blog with hundreds of people who are willing to let me track what they do, which is unique. So I have a lot of good data.
And it seems like, I've read through the book, and everything there is, really kind of shocking, a lot of it. And the one criticism that I come up with and I ask is, it's mostly N of 1 and N of, maybe 100 or a couple hundred on the blog, but not control. So do you hope this is going to catalyze sort of more traditional research, or is this leading towards, people should do their own experiments and sort of figure things out and see what works for themselves?
So there are a few things I'd say. The first is that small studies can be very, very effective. When you look at statistical significance or p-value, it has a lot to do with not just the number of subjects or data points, but the magnitude of the change. So there is that. But also with news sites that are available, like whether it's dailyburn.com or puretogether.com, Patients Like Me, you can actually do studies. You can perform open source clinical studies that are in many respects better than the lab-based controlled studies. And what you find is when you really dig into the science, and there are some fantastic studies out there, don't get me wrong, but they have limitations. And if you're looking at, let's say, 10, 18 to 25-year-old males in a college setting, which is almost always the case.
That's all the research,
and they're almost always white. There's nothing wrong with being white, but hey, if you're looking at genetic diversity, it's not exactly representative. There are limitations, and I think that what you'll find is there will be some huge breakthroughs, even in the next 12 months, 18 months, with the websites and tools that are available now. It's never been easier to really gather quality data.
Yeah, one of the things we're doing with Zeo to help that out is we're opening up all the APIs for the product so that you can suck your data into DailyBurn, you can suck it into Cure Together, and start running these experiments. So, we totally agree with you that there's just going to be a much stronger platform for doing this stuff as we go forward.
Yeah, and also what I would say is, at the end of the day, for self-experimenters, what they care about is what works for me. And you don't need to wait 10, 20 years for a longitudinal study, observational study at that, of obesity to make changes. You can make those changes now, and you can experience very dramatic results with small changes if you do it the right way.
Yeah, if it works for you, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about sleep for a bit. You know, in your book, you did a lot of experimentation on sleep. Seemed like it was a big problem for you initially, and seems like you solved a lot of your problems. So talk about one or two of your sort of favorite body hacks relating to sleep.
There were a few. I tried everything. So I've had onset insomnia for my entire life, as have most of the males in my family, which means that it takes an hour or two for me to fall asleep, which is horrible. And that was fixed through a few different mechanisms. Zeo ended up being the most effective for tracking because you can certainly record when you go to bed and when you lay down in bed, but what happens between that point and when you wake up is oftentimes a complete unknown. And so Zeo was very important for gathering data during that period of time. Things that worked really well, one of them was cold exposure, so taking a cold shower, let's just say an hour before you go to bed, for a host of hormonal reasons and otherwise, really helps improve time to sleep. Yeah. Otherwise, using something like a Philips Go light in the morning to affect circadian rhythm and the suprachiasmatic nucleus and stuff, all you need to know is 15 minutes with Philips Go light to the side of your laptop in the morning, and that has a real effect. Otherwise, very simple programs like Flux, which you may be familiar with, which changes the settings on your laptop so that the light from the laptop doesn't prevent you from falling asleep, is very, very helpful. And it goes on and on and on, but I would say that it all starts with having good data. When you think you've had a terrible night's sleep because you didn't sleep enough, that's not necessarily the case. And sometimes that means that you just didn't have the right percentage of REM sleep. And that could also mean that you had low blood sugar. So one thing I found very helpful was having 2 tablespoons of almond butter, so raw almond butter, before going to bed. And you find that oftentimes it's not that you didn't sleep well, it's that you have low blood sugar. And there were a lot of surprising discoveries like that ended up really improving not only the quality, but the duration of my sleep as well.
Yeah, one thing I found really interesting is that you, in one of your experiments, you woke yourself up in the middle of the night for only a few minutes, and that actually extended your REM sleep in the morning.
Right.
So, interesting hack.
Yeah, and that was actually borrowed from researchers who focused on lucid dreaming. So how to induce lucid dreaming, which is dependent on REM sleep. So, a lot of fun stuff. I mean, there are other supplements and things like that you can take, but I prefer to offer options that don't require people to go out and buy supplements when possible.
So you used sleep, really as a technique to solve your own onset insomnia and then get, a little bit more deep, a little bit more REM. One thing that we know at Zeo is that sleep is sort of uber connected to everything else in health. Whether it's weight loss or muscle gain, sleep is sort of right there. So did you notice as you improved your sleep, did you find that these other areas in your performance went up? Was that a factor?
Oh yeah. I mean, sleep is either the force multiplier or it's the biggest handicap. So if you're not sleeping properly, what you do besides that really doesn't matter. You'll have to work 10 times harder to get the results that you want, if you can get them at all. Whereas if you fix your sleep, certainly for any type of muscular gain, especially, or endurance training, you have to sleep, and you have to have high quality, restorative sleep. And that just it doesn't happen if you're making certain common mistakes. So the Zeo will help you to at least become aware of what your current state of affairs is. And people think they're getting just enough sleep, and they're not, even if they're in bed for 9 or 10 hours, which was the case with me. I was in bed for a long time. It didn't mean that I was necessarily getting good rest.
Yeah, we're finding, we aimed this product really at 2 targets. One was, hey, I'm just not getting enough sleep. I'm having trouble falling asleep, sort of that troubled sleeper population. And the other side, it just sort of came at us, people who want to enhance their performance. Professional athletes saying, sleep is key to recovery. There are, a lot of people using this really just to get an edge. So, that's a lot of what your audience is going to be doing is they want to get an edge on the rest of their body, and they can use sleep for that purpose.
Yeah, for general well-being and multifaceted impact, what I've said a number of times to people is that the chapters that'll have, or the sections that'll have the biggest impact are perfecting sleep, and then the sex chapters, of course. So people want the widest ranging impact. Oftentimes, it's going to be those 2 sections.
Yeah, and sleep actually has a great impact on sex as well. Improve your sleep, you will improve your sex life. We should do some blogging on that too. So one crazy hack is in your book. You had a chapter on polyphasic sleep. And I noticed it was one of the few areas where, you weren't your own guinea pig. At least it didn't seem like it. Is this polyphasic sleep, which is sort of sleeping in naps instead of, once at night, is that too crazy even for you, Tim, or no?
Yeah. No, it's not so crazy for me, and I've actually experimented with polyphasic sleep, but there's some chapters in the book where my hope is to simply demonstrate what the human body is capable of, so that people view their impossible, whatever they view as possible, as possible. And in this case, polyphasic sleep, let's just say Uberman, can be done, and it can be amazingly effective as a productivity enhancer. And I have Matt Mullenweg, the lead developer of WordPress as an example. But for me, with my schedule and my social desires, it's extremely hard to take 8 20-minute naps per day. And as you know, with something like Uberman, the more you want to reduce your sleep and the more you have to fragment it, the more precise you need to be. And if you miss one of those naps, God forbid, you are going to be a disaster for 2 to 4 days. Yeah. So you need to be very, very regimented. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I tend to, like right now, for example, I'd say for the last 4 or 5 days, with the exception of last night, I've been averaging 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night. Mm-hmm. And you're talking to someone who likes to sleep 9 hours if I can.
Yeah, that's not much.
So I've been averaging 2 to 4, and the way I've been doing that is with naps spread throughout. So it's more of an everyman type of approach.
You're using polyphasic a bit right before sort of this book launch and maybe into it to keep yourself at peak performance for a while.
Right. And it's not even about peak performance. It's keeping me alive while I have to be on point for a concentrated period. Fortunately for me, I do one book launch every 3 years or so, and I've only done 2, so doing 4 weeks of sprinting is fine with me.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, we're really looking forward to the 4-Hour Body, so congrats on the new book, and we're looking forward to everyone talking about it.
Awesome. Well, hey, we'll do some fun experiments in the future. I know we have some top secret stuff that we can't talk about yet, but incredibly useful product. I was not paid in any way to use Zeo, and it ended up being one of the best products that I found for diagnostics and fixing the problem. So thank you for putting out a good product, and lots of good stuff to come.
Well, thanks, Tim.